Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler here. Got a lot I want to talk about tonight. Now what for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills going forward. We'll talk about the divisional round. But 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes before I came on today's program, breaking news out of here in Nashville and their coaching search. We'll talk about that when I come back from the break. We'll take our first and only break. I'll be back here in 49 seconds here on Sports Scope. We'll hit the ground running with the breaking news from the Tennessee Titans here out of Nashville. Stand by, folks. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. Okay, looks like I'm live here. Okay, Pickles. All right, now, this is confirmed by Taryn Davenport, covers Tennessee Titans for ESPN, also Adam Scheffner. Tennessee Titans are finalizing a deal to hire Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan as the new head coach. I just got to do a text change with Rich Ferris from Cumulus 104.5 The Zone. He'll be on tomorrow. 30 minutes past the hour. We're going to talk about that. This is Rich's number one guy who he would like for them to bring in. I just said I wanted a competent, offensive-minded head coach. Again, this news broke 5 minutes before I came on the program, caught me really flat-footed. I will say this. I can confirm this. As I mentioned before about Callahan, he's born into a football family. His dad is Bill Callahan. Now, Bill Callahan, not really head coaching material. That was the former Nebraska coach there, also the Raiders head coach. But I'll tell you something about Bill Callahan. Very good with the offensive line, very technical coach there, good position, excellent position coach, okay? Really good at what he does, just not head coaching material. But Brian Callahan, he is going to be 40 years old this year, still considered fairly young, but look at what they did with their backup. That's how you really judge a coach here. Everybody does great when you got a world-class talent, like a John Elway, a Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, Brady. When you got a defensive-minded head coach, you can get away with more because you got a world-class Andrew Luck type of guy. Joe Burrow, I see as that type of player. But, when they put their backup in there, they still called the same aggressive offense. Love their wide receiver screens, Pickles, with either Jamar Chase. Love their this screen game with Joe Mixon or Samaje Perine. Those guys in that nature, though, they really caught you slipping. They did not coach scared is what I'm trying to say. You coach one way with one quarterback and another way with the other quarterback, and the team starts to see that and they walk on eggshells. You know, when the Titans were here and they had guys like Billy Volek. Haven't heard that name in a while, have you, Pickles? Guys like Billy, they would call a very conservative run, screen type of game. That's typical of your defensive-minded head coaches. But when you got a confident, offensive-minded, they'll call the same game plan that they would. And Andy Reid, same game plan. You know, go downfield. Go downfield, whether it's Patrick Mahomes or the backup, the guy they had last year. I can't remember his name now. But Callahan's a good hire. You know, the more I learned about Callahan, the more I learned his pedigree. He's going to have to, and I mentioned this before, he's going to have to get a veteran defensive coordinator. Get somebody. I read something here, for example. This was on ESPN's headlines. See if I can find it here. Okay, for example, Rivera's to interview for the Eagles defensive coordinator job. Ron Rivera. I'll say that because, that their head coach here, who's about a year older than me, he's like in his early 40s as well. Nick Sirianni, a little bit younger, right? So they go out and get a veteran defense. So that instead of some guy he just met, like the former defensive coordinator. So you don't want to have young all the way through. Now, I've said that before. You rather have your offensive coordinator, an offensive-minded head coach, and you may want to change out your defensive coordinators from time to time. Particularly though, if you've got a very young, this is the theme of the league right now, a very young offensive-minded head coach. You want to get, for example, I've used this before. Sean McVay brings in 70-something-year-old Wade Phillips. The defense is immediately a hit. You know, Zach Taylor, the head coach of Cincinnati, he brings in he brings in Lou Anarumo. Now Ramo's almost 50, so he a little bit older of a head coach. So you see where I'm going out here. Get the veteran defensive. There's plenty. Got Wink Martindale's out there. Remember, he walked away from the Giants here. So it's a lot that can be put into this. Hopefully that's what Tennessee will do. I'm going to talk about this in length tomorrow with Rich Ferris from 104.5 The Zone at 7:30, okay? For those of you who just joined me, I see more viewers popping on the screen. The Titans are finalizing a deal with Brian Callahan. One of my favorites here, either him or Billy Slowick. Callahan's been around a little bit longer. He's a few years older, worked with two different quarterbacks, maybe simply a better hire. His dad's also into coaching. That's why, that's a plus, we call it nepotism or whatever. Usually guys that are parents that are into coaching, they're usually pretty good quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts' dad's a coach. Joe Burrow's dad was a coach. So anyways, Callahan, like I said, his dad's into coaching. I've been working with Zach Taylor for a few years now, since he's the whole coaching staff since they came in. But the Titans have finalized a deal to work with him, a few years older than a Billy Slowick, where I thought maybe a Ben Johnson, somebody like that. But this feels like a great hire right now. To put this all in the perception here, especially if he can put a good staff behind him. Him and Ran Carthon, both around the same age. Carthon close to my age. So Carthon's just a few years older. Listen, folks, Brad Holmes, keep that name in mind. I'm going to talk about him tomorrow before I bring Rich on. Maybe I'll talk about this with Rich, okay? Young and innovative. Brad Holmes, the general manager of the Detroit Lions, he is 40. He'll be 45 this year. That's still very young to be a general manager. he has took over, been a scout since 02. He has taken over for the Detroit Lions as a general manager since 21 with the tobacco of the former Patriots. Ironically, right? Look at the players he's brought in, and I'll go into details, but you can look at the trades and everything. And then you look at a guy like Dan Campbell, who's only like 47, 48, fairly young, working together, energetic, wanting to try new things. Ran Carthon, Callahan, don't be surprised if they make trades, if they're more aggressive. Now, of course, you could say, well, the other two guys wasn't that much younger. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But these are guys that are not coming from that New England system, which is really, now that we're looking more into it, it's more about Brady, the great quarterback, and Belichick's defense. Everything else was just kind of working itself out through the greatness of Brady and Belichick. But, you look at Callahan, who's coming originally from the 49ers as an assistant to an assistant. I think, was it the 49ers? Yeah. And then he follows Zach Taylor, or is it the Rams? Excuse me. Follows Zach Taylor over to Cincinnati. And then, of course, you see the success with that offense aligned around Burrow. And, of course, like I said, with their backup quarterback, which they called the same type of game. They still ended at 9-8, even though the defense had some injuries, they had some struggles. Plus, they was in the best division in football. Nobody had a losing record in the AFC North this year. Nobody had a losing record in the AFC. So you look at the tools that the Titans have already with Spears, Will Levis, DeAndre Hopkins still under contract. Love him or hate him, Okonkwo. So now you look at a guy like Pickles, like a T. Higgins, a wide receiver that's going to be a free agent out of Cincinnati. And everything I hear and read, T. Higgins is going to be a free agent. So you got a shot to get T. Higgins. Now, I would have to look and see where I stand with Trayvon Burks and everything. This team needs help at cornerback. I'd like to get, Kansas City's Lenarius Sneed. Don't get me wrong, somebody like that. But if you think Burks is probably going to be a bust because of his injury history, and you think maybe you want to deal an older DeAndre Hopkins or something like that, go out and get a T. Higgins. This guy's coming into his prime, 25 years old. Tennessee, a lot of money under the cap. They're either second or third, depending on which cap that you read. I mean, listen, you got Callahan. T. Higgins has played the whole system. He's played under Callahan. He's been under that Callahan system for quite a few years here. So Tennessee would be in line to go out and get, like Rich Ferris said, go out and get a guy like a Joe Alt from Notre Dame at left tackle. With him as Sonorski here, they'll have maybe they go out and get a center or a guard in the second round, Pickle. So, there's a lot to be. There's a lot to be excited about Brian Callahan. I'm interested in a staff he's going to bring over. But, his dad has an offensive line background. He's going to be this guy will put an emphasis on building that lineup. I can almost assure you it's in his blood. It's the way he was raised, So, very exciting here. People out of Nashville, big news. Brian Callahan finalizing the deal, becomes the Tennessee Titans' new head coach. Could be a disaster. Guy could be over his head, have a bad staff around him. I don't think so now. My early indications are this is a good hire. Is it a great hire? That remains to be seen. Everything goes back to the play of Will Levis and the quarterback and whatnot. So, anyways, now I'm behind on my regular scheduled program. But let's go back to the show. Okay. Again, talk about that more in depth tomorrow. Tune in 7:30, Tennessee Titans flagship radio. Rich Ferris will be in tomorrow, 30 minutes past the hour. Okay. Let's go back to last night. Okay, so Chiefs Bills. Listen, that game, it went almost exactly the way I said it would go. That Josh Allen would have a Herculean effort. Maybe they'll win, maybe they won't. I picked the Chiefs to win. The Chiefs did win. Okay. By the way, another thing, Keith Engel will be on Wednesday, 7:30. Tune in. I'm going to ask him about the Patriots, some college football, plus the Patriots new hire. Okay, now back to this. All right, so Chiefs Bills went, like I said, went exactly how Josh Allen with the injuries at the linebacker positions. The Bills surprised. I was surprised that they can keep it as close as it was because of the injuries that occurred at and during that particular game there. Made some great throws. I mean, just running like nobody's business. He was the leading rusher. And of course, when he's the leading rusher and it's not one of the running backs, they lost. I mean, it just is what it is, you know. And then you get on Get Up here. Sometimes I'll watch some of these shows I've recorded during the day. When I get home from the day job, I'll start to watch some of the program, and you start to see guys like Ryan Clark. He happened to be in there. You know, I just went in on him last week talking about the Jared Mayo debacle there, one of the worst press conferences ever. But he talks about how come nobody just don't give Josh Allen the grief. I mean, yeah, Allen, 26 for 39, 186 yards passing. You're going against a great secondary. Chris Jones in the middle, really good secondary. Brett Veach has done an excellent job stocking that team with elite players on the defensive side of the ball. But look at Josh Allen. 12 carries, 72 yards, 2 touchdowns. James Cook, 18 carries, 61 yards. Now, they did get 40 yards out of Ty Johnson here. But still, I mean, you're leading rushers, your quarterback. And, you know, I used to get and pound Lamar Jackson and the Ravens about that. Listen, I got to be equal opportunity here, you know. And again, that goes right back to that is very Dan Reeves, John Elway. Some of you younger audiences might not realize this. This guy, Herculean effort, does the drive, one of the best 2-minute drives ever, goes down the field, beats the Cleveland Browns, gets to the Super Bowl. They're totally outmanned in the Super Bowl. Everything has to be about Elway. No real running game. And then finally they move off of Dan Reeves, bring in Kyle Shanahan. We know what it is. 2 Super Bowls later, back-to-back with the mile-high salute and Terrell Davis in that zone block and running scheme. But, you know, it is what it is. Is that enough? Is that enough to keep Sean McDermott around? I don't know. The people seem really nice up there in Buffalo. Carlos says, John Restano, he's you know, I'm kind of iffy on it. Now, the fact that they went on this run again, but you got to look at it and say, okay, well, this is where they're getting at. Last year, they won their wild card game. They get beat in the divisional round. The year before that, the same. Except that was to the Chiefs here. So going back to you got your eyes like Ryan Callahan. And listen, it was more about the injuries. Technically, the Bills have won the last 2 games. They just happen to be in the regular season prior to that. If you turn the situations around and say, well, what if 6'5" rifle for an arm Josh Allen, what if Josh Allen at 6'5", 238, what if he's drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs and Andy Reid and that system with Steve Spagnato's defense? What if 6'2", 225 Patrick Mahomes, who went to Texas Tech? Both of these players really didn't have Mahomes did go 7-5 his last year at Texas Tech. But the truth of the matter is, he was 13-19. He was 13. That was very John Elway. He did better than John Elway at college. He did better than John Elway. But if you look at and that's but still, John Elway didn't even make a bowl game. But then you look at a guy like an Allen, fifth in Wyoming history career passing touchdowns, 44, fifth in the history single season passing. Yeah, he was a stud there as well. So if you put Josh Allen essentially with Andy Reid and you put the smaller, although I still say they're the same guy, Patrick Mahomes with a Sean McDermott, Josh Allen, there's a very good chance Josh Allen's got Patrick Mahomes' resume. Patrick Mahomes got Josh Allen's resume. Okay. I do like Mahomes. I don't want to take anything. You guys know I love Mahomes. I mean, he's a great ambassador for the game. And listen, arm strength, the guy threw, just to prove he can do it, he threw the ball out of Arrowhead Stadium. Threw the ball, got in the stadium. I saw the video, threw the ball out of the stadium just to prove he can do it. I think he's just as fast as an Allen. Allen's a bigger player, just read their height, But as far as flick of the wrist, arm strength, that's pretty close, man. I mean, Mahomes can throw the ball. I mean, just just rifle that ball. It looks like if you're playing Madden and you press the button real hard and the ball zips out of your hand and go around the field for all you Madden players out there. So I don't want to take anything away from Mahomes. I think this is a special run that Kansas City's on. This is their sixth. I was right. We talked about this Friday. This is their sixth consecutive AFC Championship game, second only to the New England Patriots. That's amazing. But back to Allen, listen, at some point, you're going to have to make a tough decision in Buffalo. You're going to have to get the right coach behind this guy. He's going to have to adjust his salary. He's a big cap hit next year. They got a lot of players getting older. Your Micah Hydes of the world. You might want to get rid of high and expensive Moody, Stephon Diggs. You've got some cornerback issues as well. Tre'Davious White, Von Miller will probably retire. I mean, you're getting really old on that defensive side. And, of course, Allen's price tag is going to be that much more expensive, okay? So what do you do? He's going to have to adjust his salary, and you're going to have to get a guy that can put that running game around him, offensive mind. He really needs a guy like Jim Harbaugh. Harbaugh's a former quarterback. He'd get in his rear end. He'd talk to him. He would simplify the offense. So when we need you to be beast mode, you be beast mode. But you can't be beast mode all the time. You can't. You're going to get hurt there. He was doing a press conference and both of his hands were bloody. He looked like a serial killer after doing his serial killing. But really, he was cut up, banged up, running through linebackers and everything. You cannot be superhero every playoff game. You just cannot be Superman. It looks great in the movies, great in slow motion, but the truth of the matter is you're going to get hurt and you're going to come up short every time. It's like Michael Jordan. Yeah, he put 63 on the Celtics. Well, they lost that game. And then they lost the other 3 games and they got swept. Phil Jackson said, listen, man, do you want to put up 63 every night and not win nothing? Or do you want to trust me with this triangle system myself and assistant coach Tex Winter want to put in here and get a couple of rings and get those points down? You still get 25 or 30. Jordan said, okay, well, anything at this point. I'm in year 7 now, And, of course, eventually they got it installed a few years later. Well, technically, when that conversation happened, I think it was in year 5 to be about year 7, year 8. Came in 84, 91. We know they won the finals, beat the LA Lakers. Now, again, as far as Kansas City, let me see if I got any bites here. I thought I had a. No, that's the other game. No, that's also the other end.
No dancing today.
No. Okay, here's the locker room afterward. It was a big win for Kansas City. Andy Reid again. If Patrick Mahomes with Sean McDermott and Andy Reid had Josh Allen, I think Josh Allen has got this hardware and this crazy run that the Chiefs are on. Listen, here's a cool little soundbite here. After the game, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes in the locker room. It starts off with Mahomes here. So listen up. From NFL fans.
No dancing today. We got more to do, right?
Yes, sir.
More to do.
Yes, sir.
But you know what? We're gonna enjoy this one like silver, buddy. Hey, proud of everybody. Defense, I'm proud of you for battling.
Shut the door, baby.
They talk about that defense, which he should have.
You were battling all night or day, whatever we are. Let's take a knee. But first, how about those Chiefs?
Here's this Mahomes.
They asked for it. Yeah. And they got what they asked for. But he said it. This ain't done. We come back next week ready to go.
And turn it up a notch.
Chiefs on 3, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, and Mahomes realized, hey, listen, we got Goliath to go against next week. You know, hey, listen, I told you all this a couple of weeks. I've been talking about this for the last few weeks now. This is very much a Belichick Brady type of run. People was going to get tired of looking at them. 6 straight AFC championship games. What a buzz here for the Chiefs. It was a good win, though. It was a good win. They've had problems defensively all year. They've had problems at tackle all year. They finally got Donovan Smith healthy. They're holding their breath with this guy. And then Jawan Taylor lining up off sides. Those 2 tackles, they finally got them both healthy, and they finally got them somewhat to be able to act right. And kudos, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, huge couple big catches, who finally shows up, catches big. Rashid Rice looked a little banged up. I want to see what the deal is with him. Gay, the linebacker, he went out. Want to see about that. That's a good transition. Let's go to the Ravens game. Listen, a lot of people hyping up the Ravens here, okay? I'll say this. They should be 6.5-point favorites, the Ravens, against this Chiefs team, all right? But let me go on to the Ravens game. Ravens taking us to go back to Saturday. Another example of a team like a Houston. I'll tell you what, because of the bye week, I mentioned this earlier, and I said this may happen. It happened with both teams, with both 1 seeds, the 49ers and the Ravens, folks. It happened with the Niners and the Ravens. Both of them clinched week 17. Both of them rested key starters, a lot of starters, week 18. And so you're talking 20 days, 19, 20 days, practically 3 weeks without playing a live action game. It's hard to simulate that in practice. That's something coaches are going to have to work on in the offseason and study how to get these guys ready. Because both of them were in, if you look at the Ravens, who are at 34-10, no problem. No, listen, Houston, 2 big sacks in a row. They were all over Lamar Jackson. Missed a dead bang 47-yard straight ahead field goal. They would have been up 13-10. But that Ravens defense, you could not run on that defense. Once they established it, got in the mind of Bobby Slowick and just that whole offense in general. D'Amico Ryans, Stroud himself. Then you realize, okay, we can't run on this team. We are not going to be. We can try some kind of end around stuff. We can do this. We can do that. They had a little bit of success here and there, but they could not run on that Raven defense. And that Raven defense held them in there. And you got past the slow start of the Ravens. And like I said, like I was in fear of for the Ravens, and I'm pretty sure John Harbaugh probably said this too to Lamar Jackson. Listen, man, if it's not there in the passing game, don't force it. You've got rested legs. Go ahead and use your legs, okay? Go ahead and use your legs. Revert to what you know. We're so good now on the back end with guys like Zay Flowers, who's turned out to be a big hit at wide receiver, okay? Rashawn Bateman's finally healthy throughout the whole season. They've added – that's a first-round pick too, by the way. Former first-round pick. Odell Beckham, not to mention Isaiah Likely, who has emerged as a great backup tight end to Mark Andrews. Excuse me. Sorry. Okay, so as you can see, the Ravens, he ended up having, Lamar, I didn't realize this, but he had 100 yards rushing in that game. He ran for 2 touchdowns, threw for 2, got sacked 3 times, but he never threw a pick. He never forced it. That's the maturity of a fifth-year Lamar Jackson versus year 2 Lamar Jackson, who is kind of panicking a little bit. I think he would have panicked. And look how sharp that C.J. Stroud was. Even without that running game, you could see the talent with Stroud. I mean, the future is wide open for this guy, man. I was looking at Stroud, and I thought to myself, this dude they've got a lot. They've also got a lot of money in the cap room. They're very close to Tennessee. That's bad news for the Jags. That's bad news for Indy and Tennessee right there. Because they got a lockdown. Now, something had happened. Maybe he could get distracted from this year's success. I don't know. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think he's going to be a star. I think he is a never rattled player. So mentioned that in the telecast there. One of the commentators said, this guy's never rattled, man. I mean, none of these big games rattle him. Outdoors, indoors, he's just not a guy that really gets too high or too low. Very Eli Manning-like, Very Eli Manning-like. And after the game, Lamar Jackson says something to him, and I'll play it up here real quick. They had an exchange. Yeah. He says it's only the beginning. I'm waiting on you. Lamar saw the talent in Stroud after the game. Gave him a hug. Listen, that team was supposed to maybe win 6, 7, 8 games and be excited about that. No, they won the division and beating the crap out of good teams. They beat a good Cincinnati team when they had Joe Burrow. Okay. They beat up on a Jacksonville team decisively. He's playing so well. He might get Doug Peterson in Jacksonville fired. This guy makes good. He doesn't live by interceptions. He never gets overwhelmed by anything. Other words, he has a bad game, a bad play, a bad moment, a bad snap. It never really stays with him. I talked about that before where they got destroyed by the Colts early in the season down in Houston. And then towards the very end, when you had the season on the line, the division on the line at Indianapolis, mind you, go up there to have a great game, get the win. Okay, playing against that very talented Cleveland defense. Cut them up like a hot knife through butter. Guys running wide open. A lot of that scheme, a lot of that is just pure Stroud, though. Stroud making the run very, very accurate. Listen, they got a lot of money. He's on a rookie contract. He's going into year 2. He's already won a playoff game. They may have hit the Powerball here and got a guy as good, maybe better pro than Deshaun Watson. Now, it's just a one-year wonder. They may end up losing their offensive coordinator. So a lot of that stuff goes into play. Josh Allen's kind of stats dipped a little bit with the initial loss of offensive coordinator Brian Daboll because, again, defensive-minded head coach Sean McDermott, DeMeco Ryans going to win the Coach of the Year. Defensive-minded head coach DeMeco Ryans, okay? Go back and look at Mike Tomlin. One really good offensive, Bruce Arians. Colin Cowherd brought that up the other day. He said Bruce Arians was the only really good coordinator that Ben Roethlisberger had. I mean, they went through a bunch of guys. Matt Canada, the guy that was the fill-in guy. They don't know about him. Who was the other guy? Todd Haley, which he wasn't bad, but Roethlisberger didn't. He coached Roethlisberger hard. He didn't like that, But Haley was hard to get along with. So, again, I'd much rather prefer a guy with a quarterback background to be my offensive-minded head coach, former quarterback practically. Ideally, he don't have to be an all-world guy. He could be a college guy. I think Sean McVay played in college. John Gruden played for Dayton. He never played it down in it, I don't think, anyways. Pretty good coach there, John Gruden. I want my head coach to have a good quarterback background, or just be really good with quarterbacks and have a really good coordinator. Defensive guy you want to pay. Steve Spagnuolo. Remember, Spagnuolo was not the first coordinator that Andy Reid had when he first got there. It was some other guy. They fired him and brought in Spagnuolo, who's never been head coaching material. Had that great Giants team. Beat the Patriots, beat that Patriot team. So it remains to be seen. I think Stroud's going to be fine. I think this AFC South, other than Anthony Richardson, but they got a good offensive-minded head coach, though, Shane Steichen. They got a good offensive line. That's two things working for the Colts. This division, could this be as competitive as the AFC North in 2 years? What if Will Levis comes into his own? Titans got a lot of money. Houston's got a lot of money. Jacksonville's got a lot of talent. Now, Trevor Lawrence's contract's going to come up pretty soon. And you look at the Colts there. Could in a year or two, could this be an AFC North type of division? Listen, there was a few years ago, I talked about this last week, with the NFC West with the Seattle back in 2010. That was the worst division in football. They won their division at 7-9. Now, of course, I was doing it because I talked about the Bucks. They got hot at the right time. They beat New Orleans with Matt Hasselbeck and a young Marshawn Lynch, run the rock, beast mode, 12th man, right? And then they go on the road, and then they lost to a Jay Cutler Bear team led by Greg Olsen. Okay. Until they got the quarterback, but that division was terrible. Then you go a few years later, when you had Jim Harbaugh there, and then you had Seattle's Legion of Boom and all those guys, you had all those players that Carroll had brought in, had started coming into their own, 5th-round pick. Richard Sherman, 3rd-round pick, Russell Wilson, all those other, Bennett on the defensive line, you name it. And then they going against that really good defense of that 49er team, okay, led by Patrick All right, what's that guy's name? Pickles, that middle linebacker. Patrick something. Great player. Okay. Really good defense. Those were the two best teams in the whole league at that time. Remember when it was one play there that got them to the Super Bowl. And of course, Seattle destroyed Denver in the Super Bowl. They went from a bottom dumpster fire division to the best division in football. I mean, you had the two best teams in all of the NFL that particular about 2 years in a row. You had the 49ers who went all the way to the Super Bowl, lost to his brother. Then the very next year you had Seattle go to the Super Bowl and win, and then a few years later get back to the Super Bowl only to lose at the 1 yard line to New England. So things can change quickly in the NFL is what I'm saying. You can go from the outhouse to the penthouse with a few bad injuries. You can go back to the outhouse if your quarterback gets hurt. If something happens to your head coach. Now, Carlos brought up something about Andy Reid. I haven't been able to confirm that, but he said he heard maybe Andy Reid may retire after this year. And you look at the success of Patrick Mahomes. You put him with some clown coach, some defensive-minded coach who don't know what he's doing. A guy's a great interview. You know, things might not look so rosy. It might not look so rosy if you put him with an incompetent coach. So I tell you, head coach is a big thing. Head coach Patrick Willis, I think that's who I was thinking about. That linebacker, Pickles. Penthouse to the box. Pen or doghouse. Yeah, pen or doghouse to the penthouse. I just mentioned the Detroit Lions. Okay. I just mentioned them, and I'm going to go more into them later on. They get to the NFC Championship game for the first time since 91 and 92. What was so special about that year? That was the year let's see, 91, 10 years old. 10 years old. And that was the year I really got into the NFL. I mean, I watched that whole Super Bowl. By the way, today is the 22nd. Back in them days, January 29th, that's Super Bowl, Pickles. The Super Bowl would be Saturday. Be about Saturday or Sunday back in them days. Now it's almost close to I'm cool with it. I like that. I like the fact they drag it out almost to Valentine's Day. But back in them days, it's usually around the 27th or the 30th of January. But this is the last time that the Lions were the NFC Championship game. I was talking to this girl at work, a woman at work, young woman. I didn't want to tell her, but she's a lot younger than me. She's like, my dad, she has this Lions shirt on. Her dad's, she's from the Detroit area. Dad's a huge fan. She lives here now. And she's like, they've always been terrible. When I was a little kid, I watched, only success I remember is the Pistons back when they were, and I was thinking, let me guess, Ben Wallace. Then she was like 10, or 8, something like that. And I was like, I remember that. So she has no idea about Barry Sanders, only through YouTube, right? But that was a Barry Sanders-led team. That Redskin team, then they were called the Redskins, led by Joe Gibbs, head coach, Mark Ripken. They beat that team, and then later on, poor Buffalo, beat the Bills in the Super Bowl. Ripken, I think Art Monk was on that team. Pretty good team, Darrell Green, great cornerback there. Watched it all the way through. We talked about it at school the next day while we're shooting basketball. Man, that was a pretty good Super Bowl, I was hooked every year after that. So, they get the big win here. And listen, again, I love what Dan Campbell's doing. Like I said the other day, folks, that I thought that the return of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson at safety would be huge. It would be his second game back against going against Baker Mayfield. They've been jarring back and forth social media or sound bites getting back to each other, taking shots at each other. And Johnson got the last he got this round per se. He got this round. He got an interception, Pickles, in the first half against Mayfield. They were driving about the 50-yard line. And that's the former Eagle, folks, that was brought over from last year's team. Had 7 interceptions. 7 interceptions Chauncey Gardner-Johnson had. Led the NFL last year. Got hurt early this year. Lions fans know about this. Just came back from IR. First game back was obviously the Rams game. A little bit rusty. Second game back. Gets the big interception there. Plus, played a big sack there by Aiden Hutchinson. 8 sacks the last 4 games. He's a house of fire. I kind of saw that game playing out. I said it would be within that spread, which is 6.5. Baker Mayfield played the way I thought he would. He made some big throws. I'll give him that. He made some really big throws. Mike Evans, great game. I don't know who this Tyler Smith guy is, or Trey Smith. This is a running back. They found him out of nowhere. He's turned out to be a pretty good player. They may let Godwin go. They may let Evans go in free agency. They're going to have some cap problems too. Who's going to be 30 years old? Evans, well over 100 yards, scores a touchdown, Mike Evans. But he'll also, as I said before, he still has this issue, Baker Mayfield, that he still thinks, Pickles, that he's faster than what he is. He still thinks. So when the pass rush is coming at him, he thinks in his mind he's Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson, where he can or Josh Allen, where he can just twist at him and throw. When he twists at it like he's on throw, Aiden Hutchinson or this other guy, I can't remember who it was, the other guy placed coming from the other side there. Well, he's sacked and he's losing 8-10 yards. There's 2 big sacks in that game where he lost almost double-digit yards. They went from 2nd and 10, where he had thrown it away, to 2nd and 19, 3rd and 19. Then you go ahead and a totally different defense. You keep everything in front of you. You rush 4, maybe you sneak 5. Aaron Glenn, great game called. Aaron Glenn, defensive coordinator. Just like they did in the Rams game, he hid all his he disguised his blitzes to the very last second. Brian Branch, rookie out of Alabama, got a sack. He was bringing safeties there. He was not letting Baker Mayfield get comfortable whatsoever. The crowd really fed off that. Dan Campbell pushing. Dan Campbell really totally different when you got a defensive minded head coach. But he let Ben Johnson call that game just any way he wanted to call it. A commentator, well, I think they're going to, I forgot who it was. I think it was Collinsworth. Yeah, I bet they're going to, they're going to huddle up and go 2 tight ends. They're going to run it. Nope. Looks like they're going, and of course they did. They spread it out, and this was on a goal line. This was towards the end of the game, and of course that they go ahead and score that go-ahead touchdown there. I want to say that was with Alamon St. Brown there at the end. They end up winning the game by 8 points. I think that was the go-ahead touchdown with Alamon St. Brown. But you can tell the chemistry with Jared Goff, which I may get into that contract tomorrow too, or probably Thursday. But between Jared Goff and Ben Johnson, if you're a Lions fan, you really hope that Ben Johnson just turns down these jobs. Hope he just turns down these jobs, and you knock him up to $3 or $4 or $5 million a year, something like that. Let him come back one more year. Got a lot of key players still on rookie contracts. Sam Laporta, Audemars St. Brown, Jabbar Gibbs, Laporta and Gibbs are rookies. The contributions that this team is getting from rookies is unbelievable. Penei Sewell, rookie contract there. You know, Brian Branch, rookie. Jack Campbell, rookie. That's a linebacker there. Okay. They signed Zach Ertz today. They're a popular free agent destination here. You know, so it's you could see, Pickles, that the golf is just what him and Ben Johnson, you could just tell. It's like as soon as he heard Ben Johnson tell him that in his helmet, this was like a third or fourth down. This was a very crucial play in the game. He's like, okay, we'll just spread it. And it's like, boom. It's just, it really, as the game went along, full faith in his offensive line. Ragnew, the center, went out, came back in. I was wondering how how good he was going to be with your center banged up like that. But he comes out, he plays, and he's in line to play. Looked like a pretty bad injury there, leg injury or something. I don't know what it was. I couldn't really tell. But when you have a center like that, crazy things can happen, especially if you're in a shotgun. We've seen that in the college game, but even in the pro game, you're going to get false starts. But Ragnew was fine. He's the star of the O-line. Now Taylor Decker's really good. Taylor Decker's the left tackle. Penei Sewell was drafted really high. They moved him to right. But Ragnew is a 3-time Pro Bowler and a beast. He is their Jason Kels, who had his shirt completely off in Buffalo, picking up people's kids and having a good time with the crowd there. But he's their guy. Total beast mode in the middle. The Lions are a great story. Brad Holmes not getting the proper credit. I'm going to look into that tomorrow. I mean, look at specifically at what he had done there. This guy, Audemars St. Brown was a 4th-round pick. He's a beast at wide receiver, So I got a good staff together. But like I said, Campbell, and I was telling my friend at work this, Amani, I said, listen, these guys here, they're used to losing. They're their habit of losing. And he's trying. Remember, they started 1-6 last year. He's getting them into a habit of winning. And he's doing that by calling the game aggressive. He's going for fake punts inside the 30-yard line. Now, Detroit did that, or not Detroit, but Denver did that, or not Denver, Buffalo, excuse me. Buffalo did it, and they come up short. But remember, Detroit did this. Well, for one thing, I think they did it in the Cowboy game, and it worked in the regular season. They also did it in the Kansas City game to open the season. Didn't Kansas? He said, "Man, I don't like the way the momentum's going here. Let's try a fake punt." And of course, it worked. It worked in the Kansas City game here. So, listen, I don't know how healthy they are. I think they're going to give the 49ers all they can handle. As far as the 49ers are concerned, listen, like I said earlier, before the game started, I thought they could be rusty. I thought the 49ers could be rusty. They were the most scariest team as far as being shaken up. It looks like Deebo Samuel's got a shoulder injury. Deebo Samuel has a shoulder injury. But, hey, man, these guys come out like a house of fire. Green Bay, red hot, a lot of talented players there. They've also done a good job drafting Musgrove there, Romeo Doubs, Watson, some guy named Bo Melton scored. The future's really good. I mean, they were up 13-7 at one time. And then before the fourth quarter, they were up 21-14. But like a lot of young quarterbacks, and even Josh Allen, Jordan Love, the 2 interceptions, the one late in the game, throwing against his body like that, I don't know what he was that he was going for the big payter, and you could see same thing with Allen and some of these throws here. You could see guys underneath being open. You can't always get the big play, But, credit to the 49ers. They made some adjustments on the fly on the defense. And again, 2 touchdowns by McCaffrey. Once they settled down, got that like Ravens, except the Ravens really ran roughshod in the second half. Once they settled down in the second half, it ended up getting a win 24-21. I expect them to play a lot better next week. I think Samuel will be back. But if Samuel don't come back, the Detroit's got a shot to beat them. Now, of course, my preseason pick was the 49ers get to the Super Bowl. I'll have to analyze that. I don't know how healthy Ragnow is going to be, even though he says he's going to try to play. I think Debo's going to try to play. Emmitt Smith ran for almost 200 yards with a separated shoulder in a crucial game against the Giants. Now, of course, that was back in 1993. Lots changed there in 30 years. But Samuel, the way he was running around like that, if he can put a harness on or something, I think Debo's going to do everything he can. Again, look at this. I told you all, you got to give John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan credit now. Again, 3 consecutive NFC championship games. 3 consecutive, not to mention they went to the Super Bowl, lost, had the Super Bowl won back in 19, but it's hard to hold Mahomes and Reed down too long. Big play, I can still see it to the I was watching at my friend's house, and big play there by Tyreek Hill there to get that big 35-yard play there. And, of course, a big miss there by Jimmy Garoppolo. But yeah, 49ers model of consistency. As you can see, you can run on that Detroit Lions team. This will be a great game, though. This will be a great game. There's a vulnerability on the back end of the defense there of both teams, really. It could be an unsung hero. It could be a Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to get the big play there. We'll see. Again, this is how does the injury report look? All right. But I do expect, again, a much, much better, more poised, looking like the second half of the Green Bay game 49er team. I would have picked that to be a much closer game if the weather people were right. They said it was a 30% chance, and it was supposed to clear up early in the second half. It was a monsoon most of the game, and then, of course, it finally lightened up in the fourth quarter. But there are yard difference in yards per play when Debo Samuel does not play here. You've got a veteran quarterback like a Jared Goff. Yeah, the Lions could get to the Super Bowl. They could get there. But my instinct, my antenna tells me I'm still leaning 49ers. A lot of second-year quarterbacks get to the Super Bowl, okay? Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, Russell Wilson, just to name a few, Dan Marino. A lot of second-year players on talented teams make it to the Super Bowl. It's not too far out of the question to say that a guy like a Brock Purdy could. Of course, that's later on this week. We'll talk about that later. But listen, Green Bay's scary, man. That NFC North is scary. They longest active conference championship appearances droughts. Longest. This is by CBS. 1989, last time. That's the longest streak, and that's the Cleveland Browns, of course. 89, and of course, that was John Elway beating them. I think. Then again, that might have been Cincinnati, actually. But either way, Cleveland Browns, and then it had the 1991 Detroit Lions, and then CBS put a line through that. That one's over with. Last conference championship game Washington Redskins, 1991. That was the what year? Mark Ripken, they won. 1992 conference championship game. The Miami Dolphins and, yes, Cowboys, 1995. And that was obviously the year under Barry Switzer. They went on to the Super Bowl to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, Cowboys, got to get with it. Got to get the longest streak belongs to the Browns. Maybe they get Deshaun Watson healthy next year. They've made some coaching changes. Let's see what happens. But Watson's got a big cap hit. So, anyways, just went off. I can only be an hour live at a time on Instagram. So, anyways, all right, folks. If you like the show, share the show. 30 minutes past the hour. Tomorrow, Rich Ferris. We'll talk about that Brian Callahan pick there with the Tennessee Titans going to become the new head coach there. Looks like a really good one. I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place here on Sports Scope.